Hello students, as we have seen Arduino's introduction about the IDE in last lecture, let us have a review over the Arduino board. So various types of boards among which Arduino Uno is one. You can see the picture of it. So basic we will see the characterization based on just the general aspects. So here you could see up an Arduino that Vine is said to be at Mega 32 U4, which is running at 16 MHz with auto reset, which is having 12 analog input and 20 digital input output with 7 PWM. Next board is Arduino Uno, which we are well familiar with. And at Mega 328, it is running at 16 MHz with auto reset, 6 analog input pins, and 14 digital input output pins. Among the digital, there are 6 PWM, as we have seen in the features. Next, it is Arduino DAC, which is also said to be a Atmega 168 and Atmega 168 running at 16 MHz with auto reset functionality. Next is Arduino Nano W Atmega 328. So this is a nano version of it which is having 16 MHz with auto reset and 8 analog inputs. Next is Arduino or which is Mega 2560. In this it is running with 16 MHz with auto reset, 16 analog inputs and 54 digital input outputs with 15 PWM pins. Next is Arduino Mega and Atmega 1280 which is running at 16 MHz with auto reset facility which is having 16 analog input and 54 digital input outputs and 15 PWM pins. Next is Arduino Mega ADK. This is having a feature which is more than other category. So at Mega 2560 running at 16 MHz with auto reset, which is having 16 analog inputs, 54 digital input output, and 15 PWM. Next is Arduino Leonardo. This is an Atmega 328 U4 running at 16 MHz with auto reset facility, 12 analog inputs, and with 12 digital input output and 7 PWM pins. Next is Arduino GNO Micro, an Atmega 328U4 which is running with 16 MHz with auto reset facility and it is having 12 analog inputs with 20 digital input output with 7 PWM. Next is Arduino Explora. This is running category at 16 MHz with auto reset facility. Next is Arduino Mini W, which is also said to be Atmega 328. This is having 16 MHz with auto reset facility with 8 analog inputs and 14 digital input output and 6 PWM. Next is Arduino Ethernet, which is equivalent to your Arduino Uno, which is having an Ethernet sheet along with it. So Atmega 328 running at 16 MHz with auto reset, having 6 analog inputs, 14 digital input outputs, and 6 PWM. Next is Arduino Fuse, an Atmega 328 which is running at 8 MHz with auto reset facility, which is equivalent to Arduino Pro, or we can say is a Pro Mini. The Mini version is having out 3.3 volt as an input and 8 MHz along with the capacity, which is next is Atmega 328 which is having out named differently with respect to, so we can compare all. In this view you have 6 analog input, 14 digital input output and 6 PWM. Next is Arduino BTW, or which is said to be Atmega 328. Here it is having a capacity of running 16 MHz. Nextly, the bootloader. As we have seen and we've seen in detail what is a bootloader. So bootloader is being burned out with respect to 4 KB, which includes codes to initialize the onboard Bluetooth module, and which is having out 6 analog input with respect to 14 digital input output and 6 PWM. Nextly, we could see is Arduino Gamma. So here it is at Mega, which is said to be a tiny sort of. So the name is given out 80 tiny 85, which is running at 8 megahertz with auto reset facility. Nextly, it has analog inputs, that is only one, digital input output, which are three, and two PWM. Next, LilyPad. LilyPad Arduino, this is said to be a USB as well because we can directly use it. Nextly, an Atmega 320U4 running at 8 MHz, coming under the category with auto reset facility again. It has 4 analog input and 9 digital input output and 4 PWM. Next is LilyPad Arduino. So LilyPad Arduino, this is another category for the LilyPad. So here you could see up it is Atmega 168 or which is also said to be 132, running at 8 megahertz with auto reset facility, having out 6 analog input and 14 digital input output ports with 6 PWM. Next, Arduino Pro Mini. So Pro Mini is also said to be Pro Mini W, an Atmega 328 running at 16 MHz with auto reset equivalent to Arduino Duino or Nano W, or it is also said to be Atmega 328. It is having out 6 analog input and 14 digital input output and 6 PWM. Next is Arduino NG, or it is said to be older W or Atmega 168. So Atmega 168, which is running at 16 MHz with auto reset category again, this is having out compilation along with uploading and equivalent to Arduino De Silva, which is nothing but equivalent to your Atmega 168. But the bootloader which is burned here is much slower and it is having a timer feature. Here it has pin number 13 LED which blinks out 3 times on reset, 6 analog input, 16 digital input output and 6 PWM. Next, Arduino robot control. So here you could see up in the name itself it is set out, it is used for robot control. So this is at Mega 328 which is running at 16 megahertz with auto reset. So here you could see up the cross section of your application for your Arduino Robo control. Nextly, you could see up the elements which is coming under along with the boards is Arduino Robo motor. So this is used for specifically at Mega 328 which is running at 16 megahertz with auto reset. Nextly, you could see up this is a slide view for your robotic control which has been used up for Arduino application. Nextly, we could check up the temperature sensor as well to see up the temperatures. Nextly, we can see the application is for mobile control robot. Nextly, for walking robot, pick and place robot. And lastly, flying robot.